with South County Democrats. Dr. Dula, thank you very much for those kind words and for the invitation to all the officers of the club. It's great to see you. Thank you for your leadership. And everybody here, I am glad to be off of Capitol Hill. It's Republican-controlled territory. We're going to change that. But I'm glad to be with all of you. Glad to be with all of you. And I do want to say to Dr. Dula, thank you for your leadership here in South County, but thank you also for all you did, first as a Vietnam veteran, serving our country, as a teacher, Prince George's County, your service with the Prince George's Chamber of Commerce and the business community, and the work you mentioned with the Health and Human Services. It was a privilege to work with Dr. Dula because I think everybody in this room understands that we got to take a multi-pronged approach to gang violence, and the first thing we should do is try to make sure we prevent kids from ever falling into gangs to begin with by making sure they have after-school opportunities and other opportunities. And that's why I was so proud to get the federal funds for the Multicultural Center working with you, Dr. Dula, and others. So thank you. It's great to be here with your clerk, Sidney Harrison. I know there he goes. Thank you for your innovation, the changes you're making that you talked about tonight, and for your leadership. And you're sitting next to one of my very dear good friends, Senator Gloria Lala. We served together for many years in the legislature. And I learned early on in the legislature that you don't argue with Gloria Lala. If you start talking and debating with Gloria Lala, you know in the end you're going to end up agreeing with her. So I just take the shortcut. So it's great to be here with Senator Lala and with Delegate Ingrid Turner. Thank you for your leadership here, good friend. And to all of you, as I said at the beginning, I'm leaving Capitol Hill, where unfortunately there's a lot of gridlock and efforts to turn back the clock. You have Republican control in the House and the Senate. And we are going to have to work really hard in this election to win a Democratic majority in the United States Senate, make sure that we hold on and keep a Democrat in the White House, and do our best to fight back in the House of Representatives. And when it comes to the United States Senate, the political math is pretty clear. We cannot win a Democratic majority in the United States Senate if we don't make sure that we keep the seat being vacated by the great Barbara Mikulski. If we don't keep that Democratic here in Maryland, there's no way we can take back a majority in the United States Senate. And we all learned the hard way what happens when Democrats don't turn out. We learned that in 2014. Because we have a governor right now who is withholding $70 million in money for Maryland schools. The biggest single portion of that $70 million would come right here to Prince George's County. $20 million of that 70 would come to Prince George's County schools. And I know that because when I was in the state legislature, state senator serving with Senator Lala, we worked very hard back in the day to pass the Thornton Commission legislation, because the Court of Appeals in Maryland had decided that the way we fund our schools in Maryland was inequitable and inadequate. Both. Not enough money, and the money wasn't being channeled in the places we needed most. And so we worked together to change that formula, and as a result, more funds were channeled to Prince George's County schools and other school districts that really needed the resources. Which is why when the governor withholds $70 million, the biggest single chunk he's withholding is for Prince George's County. So we got to change that dynamic in Maryland, but it just shows the consequences of losing a statewide election in the state of Maryland. Now, I must say tonight, as you know, are the Iowa caucuses. A lot going on. And all you have to do is turn on your television set and listen to the Republican presidential primary contenders to realize that this is a very risky time in the country politically. Because every one of them is interested in turning back the clock on much of the progress we've made. And if you look at their two front runners, Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, these guys want to take us back to the Stone Age. Their rhetoric has been divisive. It's been ugly. It's trying to exploit people's fears and turn one American against the other based on religion and other differences. And the fact that they're doing well in their primaries is something that should worry us all. We need to fight back and speak out a lot as we go into this election in 2016. And President Obama was absolutely right to call that out in his State of the Union address, where he talked about the need for civil political discourse in America. We can have disagreements. Political parties have always had disagreements. But we can do it in a way that tries to bring people together rather than in ways that tries to divide us as Americans. Because this country will only succeed if we work together to build a more perfect union. And all of us know that's been a long, long struggle, and we've come a long way. And everybody knows we got a long way to go to get there. And dividing Americans will take us back, not take us forward. And so when I hear those voices, it's not just the president who needs to speak out. We all need to speak out. Because if you look at their actual agenda, they do want to erase many of the accomplishments that we've made, even in the last 7 years. And I've been very proud to be a partner with President Obama and work with President Obama to make the progress we've had. We have done a lot in 7 years, and we've done it, unfortunately, without any help from our Republican colleagues. So let's just review the bidding. When the president was sworn in back in 2007, the day he put his hand on the Bible, we were losing 700,000 jobs in America every month. Every month. We passed the economic recovery bill, and we've seen the economy begin to come back. Now, we've got a long way to go. I'm not under any illusions. We dropped the unemployment rate from over 10% to around 5% nationally, but there's still lots of people in lots of places that are hurting. And when we hear about the foreclosure statistics in Prince George's County, we know we have a lot of work to do. Because we had a system where the big banks on Wall Street got bailed out, but homeowners are still struggling. But the president deserves a lot of credit, and I'm proud to have been part of the Democratic team, leadership team on Capitol Hill when we passed the economic recovery bill. Because without that, we'd still be in a very deep ditch, number one. Number two, we passed Wall Street reform. Again, we got a lot of work to go still on financial reform, but remember, under the old rules, when the banks got in trouble, they asked for all of us to help bail them out. And so we want to make sure that never again is our taxpayer money on the line to bail them out in order to save the entire economy. We need to go further in this area, but the president did a great job. And of course, the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act, it's not perfect. We can do some more work on it. Republicans would want to work on it instead of trying to get rid of it. But the reality is, as today, about 18 million Americans have access to affordable health care that they would not have had without it. That is a big deal. I'm editing the Vice President's remarks. But now, what are we going to be doing tomorrow on Capitol Hill? This just gives you a little sense of the agenda. So, 62 times in the House of Representatives, the Republicans have decided not to work on making the economy even better or transportation or education. 62 times we voted to undo Affordable Care Act, undo Obamacare. Now, the last time they did it, they used a special procedural device. So the 62nd time was the first time that the bill went to the president's desk. And the president vetoed it. President Obama vetoed it. I just want you to think about what would have happened if any of the Republican presidential candidates would have been in the White House. So they would have signed it. And 18 million Americans would have lost their access to affordable health care. These elections have huge consequences. So tomorrow in the House of Representatives, the Republican leadership will bring us together to vote to try to override the president's veto. The good news is we're not going to let it happen. I can assure you of that. And I'm proud to be the person who's going to be standing on the floor of the House leading the fight to protect and sustain the president's veto. And we will protect it. But we got to make sure we protect it more than just tomorrow. We need to protect it in these next elections. And we're going to need everybody on board to do that. Now, you know, it's not enough for us just to say the Republicans want to turn back the clock. We at the same time need to have a forward vision for the country. And the president has been putting out a forward vision, and we've come made a lot of progress, as I said, under his presidency, but there's a lot more to do. And on the economy, especially, we need to build an economy where you have economic growth, but that everybody can share in the prosperity of this country. And that is our big challenge as a county, and as a state, and as a country. Because for decades now, people have been working harder than ever, but their wages and their benefits have been flat. Their productivity is going up, and the benefits from higher worker productivity are going to people at the very top of the income scale, the top 1%. And so we need an economy where when the economy grows, everybody benefits. And that means we got to work on many things. There's no one answer. We got to invest in our schools and kids right from the earliest age with early education. We need to make sure we have a college system where anybody who aspires to go can go without leaving with debt. We need to have a community college system that builds strong pipelines between learning and jobs. And I must say that Prince George's County Community College is a great treasure in Prince George's County. I'm proud to have been there many times and supported the efforts, because they are working to design programs so that when a student goes through that program, they can get a job, whether in the healthcare area or cyber tech. And that's what we need to do, better linkage in those areas. So we need to work on that. We need to raise the minimum wage in the United States. We need equal pay for equal work. We need paid sick leave. These are all important things. But there's another thing we really need to do too. We need to reform a tax code that, as of today, is tilted in favor of people who make money off of money and against people who earn money through hard work. It is absolutely crazy in this country to have a tax system where a hedge fund manager on Wall Street pays a lower tax rate than a school bus driver or a teacher on those proceeds. That is just nuts. And it's nuts to have a tax system where companies that move their businesses overseas actually can benefit through taxes by that move. That makes no sense. And so we need to put together a set of policies, and I put forward a plan long before the Senate election to begin to move this country in the direction with a system that helps working people, not just folks who are already wealthy and making extra money off of their wealth. And that's what's happening. So we need everybody to work to do that. The other thing we need to do, and the President mentioned this in the State of the Union address, and there's a chance we could maybe even do this year before the elections, although with the Republicans are sounding crazier and crazier, so I'm not sure. And that is criminal justice reform. Making sure that we have a system that is fair and not a system where a country that has 5% of the world's population has 25% of the world's prison population. That is a scandal. And there are many causes of that, but one is that we treat substance abuse and addiction and nonviolent offenses as a criminal matter rather than a healthcare matter. Dr. Dula was in Health and Human Services here in Prince George's County. It doesn't help anybody to send somebody who has a substance abuse problem and lock them up. It only makes things worse, not for only that person, but for the rest of us. Because they don't get any treatment, you get locked up, you get a record, you can't come back and get a job, which is why the president was